Hey folks, I am joining you today with Egoist, which came out a few months ago, but it's something that I keep going back to because it is just a lot of fun. It's got a whole bunch of different things happening in it, including this slicer, which I'm going to start off with by loading up, if I can correctly tap, a simple kind of straight kind of rock beat here. And you'll notice that with these assigned loops, it's got all these various numbers here. And I can now assign the playback of this to go with whatever sliced number this is using just sliding these things around here. So now instead of doing that, it's going to do this, which is all kinds of crazy, right? And the way I like to start off with this is hitting the random. And specifically listening to the second half of the bar to find a particularly fun sort of broken up beat. I think I got lucky because that's actually sounding quite nice. See, it's decided to make that reversed, but that kind of works. And you can then tweak this by setting the toning different, or the tuning, I should say. So now it's not really hearing that. So pumping up the tuning up an octave on the second hit of the 10 slice is adding just a little bit of variation. And there's a random thing here, which I'm going to hit it. This is a terrible idea. You should never do this. All right, that doesn't sound as terrible as it usually does, but you can add even greater variation with a random if you want, or you just hit the X and get rid of that. And let's see, I liked this. And we try lowering this. Doesn't sound good a full octave up or down on that one, so I'm just going to try bringing this up a few octaves here, or a few notes. All right, so that sounds good. Now, with the first half of this bar, I'm going to try to recreate the beginning of the actual loop. And the reason I'm doing this is to make it start off kind of gentle the way that it's supposed to be, and then it goes crazy in the last half of the bar. So I'm skipping one because that's just a crash. All right, so you got the dun, 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 and then it goes just all over the place. And that's going to be great for the next step here, which is to create a more cohesive beat for this to be playing along with. And for that, I'm going to be using this beat sequencer here where you can just add in kicks and bring down the slicer. Whoops. And let me change the kit. It gives you a whole bunch. I think I like this one. So you can already hear how that is giving a little bit of glue to this. So now we've got a solid beat. I'm going to add in some hi-hats. And if you tap twice on something, it changes whether or not it's going to be a closed or open hi-hat. All right, I think these two beats are working well together. And now it is time to bring in the bass. And for this, I'm actually going to drop out the slicer so I can focus on just the bass with this kind of generic techno pattern here. And the way that you sequence the bass is quite elaborate because you've got all these different selectors to pick. Do you want like a tiny gate? Do you want a bigger gate? Do you want a full gate? Or do you want it to slide or tie or do all these other things? And that can be kind of a pain in the ass to work with. I like to start off with just using the regular kind of notes here. And you can alter a lot of things about this with these sliders. Like instead of using some of those shorter gates to give breathing room between the notes, because I think they sound kind of staccato. Let me give you an example of that. Like that just doesn't sound good to me. So instead of doing that, I lower the amp decay. So it's got a natural decay to this note now. And you get to hear each of the notes kind of individually. Another important thing to note is your root note, which it's obviously set to C1, which is a good bass note thing, but I'm going to actually turn this into a 303 kind of squelchy thing. So I want to bring this up a whole octave here. And you've got different oscillator filter types, or excuse me, filter resonance types here. So the 030 is supposed to be the 303. But I don't actually like that. I think that it sounds a little too aggressive. So I'm going to use this one, I think it's a transistor symbol. And give it a little bit of resonance. Bring down the cutoff. Get some envelope decay on that. And some drag. I'm trying not to get too crazy with this because I don't want it to be like super squelchy right now off the bat while I'm trying to work on the pattern, but you can get it crazy. So I'm trying to find a gentle medium between the crazy and the something that's not going to drive you up the wall while you're watching this video. That's a little bit too much of the squelch, I think. Alright, I'm just going to leave that as is for now. And work on my pattern here. And I add some slides in here somewhere. And oh, excellent tip here. Okay, this works universally. Come over that a bit. In all kind of these 303 patterns, if it works really, really well both ways in both directions, you have an excellent pattern. So it's a good way to know if your pattern is working, is but testing it going backwards and forwards, and you have that option here. You could just select to play it backwards if you want to have a variation. So like, let's say you go 4 bars forward. At the K. And then you can go backwards and it still sounds good, but it's something new and and different, right? And if you do this, though, Egoist is just going to keep going backwards and forwards, so you've got basically 2-bar loop instead of just a 1-bar loop, which is very nice. I'm going to crank that up an octave and the next one down an octave, so when it goes forward one way, it's pushed up and then sliding down, and when it's going the other way, it's pushed down and sliding up, so that adds even more variation here. And you can't go wrong pushing all the notes around by like plus or minus 3, 5, and 7, so that's a good place to start. Try to add a slide in here to see if that helps. That's a decent pattern. Kind of want to add in some more variations here, though. Alright, we got a fun, squelchy, sort of acidy sound here, and drums from both our slicer and our beats. And now I'm ready to throw in some effects. And the way that you add any of this is, once again, with a sequencer. And I'm going to throw the reverb all the way across this and put that on the bass here. And it's got a fun graphic here, but it's almost better to just look at the lines here where you can see, okay, well, here's my level dampening and stuff like that. But this is a fun XY controller. Just want to add a little bit of it. And I'm also going to throw delay all the way across this thing. And change that to 16th notes. And change the level a lot. Give it a bunch of feedback. And let me throw the beat on that as well. So you see, you actually have to say manually which of these sections you want going into the effects. There's no way to say, I just want the delay going on to the beat or anything like that, but that sounded pretty good. Now it is time to actually play with what we got here. And there's a whole layer of stuff going on with these kits here. There's different samples in each of these kits. So like you see, you got a whole bunch of kits, and then there's like individual samples for each part. So there's multiple kicks, and you can play around with tuning and volume control and all that. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. And then there's the whole section of patterns and making a song with all of this. But I hope that was informative. I wanted to keep this kind of short, get me back in the groove of doing these things. It's a lot of fun. Like, I keep coming back to this one. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much to all my Patreon patrons for making these possible. Take it easy, guys. And you can also like hard enable and disable things from here, so you get kind of a performance control there where I've basically just completely taken out the melody and replaced it with the glitching chirping sounds, which, as you see up here, is affecting this. I kind of like that. Let's stick with that. Okay. And now giving it a little bit of the feedback. You know, that's going to be that noisy bits in the wave now. And since it's a sine, it's going to be throughout the whole wave, just adding just a little bit of grit there.